I understand people can see Billy as a little strange and a little bit, energetic, but once he's on the field, he absolutely dominates. So hey guys, today we're going to be covering Billy Kid. We're going to be going through a complete guide, everything that you need to know about Billy, how to build him when it comes to his best W engines, his best disc drives, his best Bangboos on field, as well as his team comps, paid and free to play, as well as the cinemas if you guys want to invest to him more and collect more of him over time. So hey guys, my name is Mr. Ocean, and without further ado, let's just get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with Billy's abilities and skills to kind of, see what he's equipped with. So first off, we're going to start with full firepower. So when you press and activate the attack button, you unleash piercing attack, dealing physical damage. Repeatedly pressing or holding will enter crouch shot to extend the duration of the attack. And you can also drag your joystick or your keys to, essentially when you're in crouch shot, you can roll around and adjust your position, also dealing physical damage. And you can stop pressing or doing the crouch shot to launch a finishing shot at the enemy in front, dealing physical damage. So basically when you're zooming around and you're basically holding your fire, you're going to continuously fire. It's like non-stop. But if you want to move around and move your position, you can move around the keys or the joystick in order to keep motion while he's shooting. And he's basically going to just shoot air and roll around as he's doing that. And when you're ever done with that finishing move, you're going to be able to do a last final shot, dealing physical damage. And so when it comes to Billy's dodge attacks, and so when it comes to Starlight Sanction, when moving during his dodge, he'll basically launch a piercing attack to nearby enemies within a large area, dealing physical damage. And when you're not moving while dodging, he launches a pierce attack at an enemy within a line, dealing physical damage. And nextly, we have his dodge counter, Fair Fight. And when you press dodge during a perfect dodge, it'll basically pierce the enemies in front, dealing physical damage. And in this state, Billy will be invulnerable while using the skill. And so now we move on to Billy's special attacks. So when it comes to standstill, without any energy or with low energy, performing up to a 3-pierce attack in a line, dealing physical damage. And it has an anti-interrupt level increased while using the skill. And once he has enough energy, using clearance time, he launches a powerful piercing attack in a line, dealing massive physical damage. And again, Billy will be invulnerable while using the skill. And so just with that, he's going to be dealing massive amounts of damage when you accumulate enough energy. So you'd want to just build up his energy and try not to use his special attack while on low energy. So you'd want to fill it up as high as possible to get the maximum amount of damage that you need while you're, dealing damage to the enemy. And so lastly, we have his special or his ultimate. So first, when we have the chain attack, Starlight Mirage, when a chain attack is triggered, the selected character, when activated, unleashes a powerful piercing attack at surrounding enemies in a large area. This is dealing massive physical damage. And again, in this state, Billy will be invulnerable while using the skill. And then with his ultimate, Starlight Shine Bright, when the decibel rating is at maximum, you can pop your ultimate and unleashing powerful piercing attacks within a surrounding area of enemies and dealing massive physical damage. And again, the character will be invulnerable in this state. So once you pop your ult, you essentially will be doing kind of a spray around attack with any enemy that's around that certain vicinity. So it could be with little grunts or it can even be with bosses, but I still need to test out if it's going to be, against bosses, if that's all damage being given to the actual boss itself, or once it gets distributed, if it's multiple enemies, like what is that looking like? What's the percentage on there? So I will get back to that when it comes on a later time, but it's very important to stack up that ultimate because it is very powerful and it can come in handy when you're in a crutch situation. So now moving on to W engines, and to start off with S rank W engines, I want to start off with the Brimstone. And so the W engine effect, Scorching Breath, upon hitting an enemy with a basic attack, dash attack, or a counter attack, will essentially increase the equipper's attack by 6% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 8 times. This effect can happen once every 0.5 seconds, and the duration of each stack is calculated separately. So what I find to be valuable in this W engine is essentially the attack percentage increase. So since Billy is going to be doing basic attacks and dash attacks constantly, he'll be able to reach up to 48% increased damage. And for how much you're going to have Billy on the field, you're probably going to have that proc constantly. I don't know if the proc resets. I'm pretty sure, unlike certain other weapons, I know that the stack will, devalue after you get hit or you get stunned or something. But I'm pretty sure when you're constantly attacking, you will have that increased attack. So 48% attack is highly valuable beneficial when it comes to it. And as for his next weapon I would choose would be Nekomata's main weapon, Steel Cushion. And for its W engine effect, Metal Cat Claws, it will give an increase in physical damage by 40% and the equipper's damage increase by 50% when hitting enemies from behind. And so what I find different about this weapon, unlike last video when I was talking about Ellen, since Ellen was able to hit enemies from behind, she's getting that 50% increase. So what's different with Billy is that since Billy doesn't have that capability as much as Ellen, what he's prioritizing now is taking that 40% physical damage, and whenever the chance happens, he can have that 50% whenever he's behind an enemy. So mainly with this W engine, you're going to focus on having that physical damage increase, which is beneficial. It's just you're going to be losing out majority of that 50% when it comes to hitting enemies from behind. And as for an A rank weapon that I'm going to recommend, I would say Starlight Engine Replica. Unlike Starlight Engine, with Starlight Engine Replica, the W engine effect Night Beam Change increases the equipper's physical damage against the target by 57.5% per 8 seconds upon hitting an enemy at least 6 meters away with basic attacks or dash attacks. And so what's really crucial about this W engine here, I think ties together with, I believe, his Cinema 4. And with that, I will explain later in the video. So essentially, when you're closer to the enemy, and it seems that this W engine is going to be more catered to being closely engaged with enemies, having that advantage of increasing your physical damage by 57.5% for 8 seconds. So with that, it's going to be very crucial for you to stay near the enemy as close as possible in order to have this constant proc. And lastly, as for a B rank W engine, again, I wouldn't recommend them because pretty much most of the time you will be having A ranks, and you probably can have something more suitable like Starlight Knight if you don't have the Starlight Engine Replica. But for last resort, the Pleniluna, and I think I might be butchering that again, I apologize, for its W engine effect Full Moon, basic attacks, dash attacks, and dodge attack damage is increased by 18%. And that's also very important, and it's a good increase, but again, I wouldn't recommend it just because you will probably be having better A ranks, and A ranks are a bit easier to come by in zenlesszonezero. And now we have Billy's disc drives, and for disc drives that we're going to be covering are Woodpecker Electro, Fanged Metal, and Harmoned Punk. So to start off with Woodpecker Electro, the 2-piece will increase the crit rate by 8%, and for the 4-piece, when landing a critical hit on an enemy with basic attack, dodge counter, or EX special, the attack increases the equipper's attack by 9% for 6 seconds. So this duration for the different skills are calculated separately, and this is really good since Billy will be constantly using his dodge attack and basic attacks and EX skills. It's going to be beneficial just increasing that by 9 and just having that increased boost in attack damage. Nextly, we have Fanged Metal, and for the 2-piece, increases physical damage by 20%, and for the 4-piece, whenever a squad member inflicts assault on an enemy, the equippers deals 35% additional damage to the target. This is really good. However, I think this would be beneficial if Billy has another physical character on the team. So far we have Piper, which is a great anomaly character. Being able to have her on the field would be beneficial for Billy to use this 4-piece set, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would just mostly recommend it being a 2-piece more than anything else. And next we have Harmoned Punk, which for the 2-piece set increases attack by 10%, and for the 4-piece, upon entering combat or switching in, its user's attack increases by 25% for 10 seconds. This effect can trigger once every 20 seconds. I would say this is really good. It just also depends if you're going to be swapping in and out a lot for Billy. Since Billy's an attack character, I feel like you're going to predominantly want him majority on the field, only at times except if you're not stunning. If you're mostly attacking, you're going to want Billy on the field constantly. So I feel like as well with this one, with Harmoned Punk, you're going to also want that for a 2-piece. So for the entire kit that I would recommend a 4-piece Woodpecker Electro with 2-piece Fanged Metal, or a 4-piece Woodpecker Electro with 2-piece Harmoned Punk. I feel like that's going to work beneficial for you since you either can have that increased attack if you're lacking in it, or you can have that increased physical if you're lacking in that as well. And so when it comes to stats on the W engines, it's going to be obvious for disc 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be HP, attack, and defense. But for disc 4, 5, and 6, so you're going to want either crit rate or crit damage depending on your ratio. You just don't want to overdo it, so you want a good ratio between your crit rate and your crit damage. And then for disc 5, you want physical damage. Since Billy is a physical character, you're going to be using that quite often. And for disc 6, you're going to be wanting to have attack percentage. You can also have pen, I believe, as well, but attack percent would be more beneficial. As for substats, you would want to have crit rate, crit damage, attack, and pen ratio. Those are going to be beneficial for you since, again, it will help you boost up your ratio on the crit rate, crit damage. Attack is always going to be beneficial, and for pen rate, it's going to be better since you're going to be penetrating the enemy's defense a bit more since you're going to be doing a lot more damage. So now moving on to Billy's best team comps. So the Cunning Hares is, I think, by far one of his best team comps, since one, you're being able to get all of their passives, as well as being able to synergize well enough together to where you're having good enough stun, support, and using Billy phenomenally, being solid as the main attacker. As well, like I said earlier, if you had a full 4-piece Fanged Metal, you can also replace Nicole with Piper, and this will be beneficial since you will be proccing more Anomaly with her since she is a physical type character. And as for Bangboos, if we're going to go off S rank, I would recommend Bang Revolver and Amelia. Since they're both great, I would say Bang Revolver would be more of the preference to choose and to go by, is just because he's going to build up that physical damage Anomaly, which is going to be better for Billy's case since he's going to be proccing Assault more. And as well, if for A ranks, I would highly recommend Bagboo, Bullseye, and I believe within the new event, the Friendship Supervision event, there's going to be a Bangboo that you can fully refine, and it's going to be free to us. It's going to be Lucky Boo. And I feel like Lucky Boo is going to be a good option for you since you can build up that Anomaly as well. Same thing as Bang Revolver. It's just not going to be as much or as much damage as we would hope, since, you know, the difference of A rank and S rank are a little bit different. So that's a good free to play option for you if you do not have Bang Revolver. So now moving into Billy's cinemas. So again, like I did last video, I'm going to be skipping Cinema 3 and Cinema 5 because they're going to be overall increasing your skills by 2. So each one is going to be increasing a total of 4. So to start off with Cinema 1, Dazzling Entry, when Billy hits an enemy with a dash attack or a dodge counter, he gains an additional 2.7 energy, and this can trigger once every 5 seconds. This is beneficial because Billy is, you're going to want him to accumulate more energy to cast his EX special, and since his EX special will be doing major physical damage, it's good, but it's not his best cinema. So moving on to Cinema 2, Roaming Gunslinger, Billy's dodge counter damage is increased by 25%, and rolling shots during his basic attack counts as dodges, making Billy invulnerable during the skill's activation. And able to trigger perfect dodges is when a rolling shot triggers a perfect dodge and it will automatically follow up with a dodge counter. So what's beneficial on this is rather than having to proc that dodge counter right after doing a perfect dodge, it's going to be automatically done for you, and it's going to be beneficial as well as adding that dodge counter damage to 25% is very crucial and very important since you're just gaining a massive amount of damage, and it's probably going to add to that multiplier of the dodge counter. It's again not his best one. There's probably 2 more after this that's probably way better than this. So for Cinema 4, Starlight Ballistic, and this is where I feel like things are going to be crucial depending on what weapon you use. So for Starlight Ballistic, when Billy hits an enemy with his EX special, the skill's crit rate is increased based on the distance of the enemy, and the closer he is to the target, the greater the effect is, up to a maximum of 32%. And so, like I said before, talking about the W engines, so with Starlight Engine Replica, you're essentially increasing your physical damage against the target, and with that, using your EX special casts physical damage, and it's depending on the distance between the enemy to you. And so doing that, when it came to the Starlight Engine, having it being 6 meters away, this is going to be crucial because this is now making Billy more of a close range character rather than a far range character. So you're able to get close and personal to the enemies and causing massive physical damage, and increasing that crit rate up with your EX special is going to be crucially beneficial. This is one of his best, if not the best one in my personal opinion for him. So I would highly recommend, if you want to invest in Billy, to try to get Cinema 4. So lastly, onto Cinema 6, Starlight Hero, when Billy accumulates 10 hits on enemies or triggers a perfect dodge, his damage is increased by 6%, stacking up to 5 times, lasting until he is knocked back or launched by an attack. This one is going to be very crucial depending on if you're able to dodge and able to get away from being hit or attacked, because doing that, you're going to be increased by 30%. So overall, 30% more damage for not being hit and not being knocked out. So that's very important for you. I wouldn't say it's his best just because you're going to have to build that up slowly over time rather than Starlight Ballistic, where you're automatically going to be having that 32%, or depending on how far you are to the enemy, whatever percentage, it's more of a guarantee rather than you having to build build and stack that up over time. And that pretty much wraps everything about Bailey's kit overall. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and also hit that subscribe button, and make sure to hit that bell notification to be notified the next time I make a new video. And if you guys have any questions or anything, make sure to leave it down in the comments below, and I will feel free to answer them as quickly as I can. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys later.